My name is Seth Bynum, and I'm a veterinarian and also an avid bird hunter. And today I want to share with you some of the most common field injuries that we encounter and how to deal with them. Most important thing to remember is keeping yourself safe. And you want to make sure that you don't leave the field with a worse injury from a dog bite than your dog has to begin with. When you're heading on a road trip with your dogs for hunting or just for travel, it's important to bring plenty of water. You also want to make sure you bring plenty of food. You definitely want to do a reality check on where you're headed. So dealing with the weather on your trip, is it going to be a situation where you have tons of wind, cold weather, heat? All those are going to dictate what you bring with you. Right up front, I keep a human first aid kit. I keep 2 GPS tracking systems for my dogs, as well as some electrolyte supplementation for them. I have a probiotic for when we're traveling to keep their stress levels down. I've got my field first aid kit here as well for people and for dogs. And then back here, I've got my base station med kit that I might use when I get back to the truck for bigger issues. It's also a great idea to get on Google and find out where the closest vet clinics are and whether they take emergency call, and have that number stored in your phone, or at least that information accessible if you're off the grid and don't have internet service. If you spend enough time in the field, you're going to get a laceration in your dog from barbed wire, from sticks, or anything like that. So they're really common. I think that most people are really in a rush to treat them in the field the way that I would treat them in the clinic, and that's really not your objective with field care. So what you want to do primarily is make sure the wound is cleaned of debris and dirt. Those are the things that are going to cause you problems later. And if there's any major bleeding, you want to apply pressure to the wound. But for the most part, a simple wrap will handle most lacerations, so you can get it into a veterinarian. So you don't need to be a plastic surgeon to deal with a laceration in the field. What you really need to do is just make sure that it's cleaned up and that it's wrapped up and protected from other debris. I use something very simple as just like some cast padding or some kind of small gauze. Just wrap that. And this is called vet wrap. It's just it's a flexible elastic wrap that goes over a wound. Again, you're not going for a beauty contest here, you're just trying to cover it up. It's essential in this scenario that you not make it too tight. People want to make sure that it doesn't fall off. You want to be able to slip a finger up underneath it. If you hunt in pheasant country a lot like I do, your dogs are definitely going to encounter a porcupine. Hopefully you've done a great job of breaking your dogs to that scenario where their instinct isn't to attack it. But if you get into a situation in which your dog is buried in porcupine quills, it's pretty straightforward to remove most of the major ones. So this is a basic slip lead that we would have in the vet clinic for walking dogs. So the idea behind this is to protect yourself, right? So if he's got a face full of porcupine quills, you really want to do something that will prevent you from getting bit. If your dog's in a trap or has a cut, you just wrap it around there and then do this a few times. I often hear that the best way to remove the quills is to cut the tip and release the pressure holding it in place, and I really think that's a waste of time. Having removed thousands of them, I would say grab yourself a pair of needle nose pliers, a hemostat like I have with me in my kit, or a multi-tool that has that available, and grab firmly and slowly and pull each quill individually. The question that I get asked a lot is, when do I know that I need to have a veterinarian intervene with the porcupine quills? And the answer to that, in my opinion, is pretty simple. If it involves the eyes or the mouth, especially deep in the throat, that's a situation in which a vet should be involved. Hunting in upland bird country, you are going to encounter a situation in which your dogs get injuries to their eyes. Those are mostly treatable in the field. Usually there is either a situation in which a dog has a foreign body or a piece of grass or debris that's caught in there, and we can flush that out. Or if there's a cut or an injury, those might need more detailed medical attention. I carry with me a bottle of sterile saline or contact solution that I can use to irrigate the eye and remove the foreign body. And that usually takes care of most of it. I also prescribe to myself and to other hunters an ointment, a medicated ointment to treat those injuries. Snake bites are far less common than people like to think they are, but they certainly do happen, and they can be either a fairly benign encounter or a life-threatening situation. I think it's really hard to predict what's going to happen to your dog just based on the situation, so it's best to be prepared, to err on the side of caution. I carry with me a variety of things to treat those, one of which I think is important for anybody to have, and you can get it over the counter, is Benadryl or diphenhydramine. Dogs have a variety of responses to the venom and the strike itself and other components to the bite. And those situations are never quite the same, but it's always a good idea to have an antihistamine like Benadryl on board to buy you some time to get to a veterinarian. Another super common question that I get from hunters is what to do about abrasions on the feet or on the pads. And those are very common in dogs hunting in rocky conditions when their feet aren't acclimated. To be honest, there's really not a great treatment for them in the field. Really, rest is the best treatment, and unfortunately that doesn't really jibe well with your hunting plans. But that tissue heals especially fast. Given 3 or 4 days off and rest, it will callus over and you'll be back as good as new. One option that you could consider is taking super glue and slowly applying several layers over a small laceration on the pad and building up a shield over top of it. That might provide you a little more time on another day's hunt. But for the most part, it's time to call it a day. Definitely a benefit to using a pack over a upland vest is the opportunity to carry your dog out in the event of a severe injury. I don't spend a lot of time trying to stabilize breaks in the field because I feel like that's fairly complicated for the average person. But what I do recommend is that you get your dog out as quickly as possible. Again, protecting yourself, but have a pack that's big enough where you can open it up and carry the dog under its rib cage and get it out of the field and get it to a veterinarian as soon as possible. One strategy that I always use is a thorough tailgate check. So at the end of each hunt, the dog goes up on the tailgate at my height and I examine the ears, the eyes, in between all the toes, the pads, the belly, look at the genitalia around the tail. All those things are areas or places where you may have a problem that you haven't noticed yet. The dog is still full of adrenaline, is masking some discomfort, and now's the time to check it before it becomes a major problem. Thanks for watching. I hope this video has helped address some of the common injuries you might encounter in the field and how to treat them.